how these infectious agent can either have organ or tissue specific manifestation. So the basic concept or takeaway behind this idea is that all the pathogens, they are going to enter into the body. After that, what are they going to do? Are all of them going to go to some same specific area? They are going to cause a disease at that particular site, or is this mechanism going to be different? So that is why they are going to see how does these bacteria, viruses, funguses, or any kind of infectious agent, how do they decide which part of the body should they infect? So the most probable answer of which organ they are trying to infect is going to be through the portal of entry of that organism into the body. So the first point which we have to see is the portal of entry. Right. So portal of entry, basically the way through which organisms enter the body. Right? So the way through which the organisms enter inside the body. So for example, let us take a very simple example. If a certain bacteria or virus is entering through the nose, then it might cause a respiratory disease because it will get a portal of entry into the lungs, into the alveoli, the bronchus, right? So in this way it will cause infection associated with the lungs. Secondly, if it is entering to the food we eat, to the water we drink, then it may cause infections in the digestive linings of that particular tissue. So it may cause a different infection as such. But the portal of entry is not the only case. There are certain exceptions to these rules as well. For example, you can take the example of HIV virus. It is going to enter through sexual contact, but then the HIV causing virus will move from that particular area to the immune system, where it is going to travel through the limb and can affect any other organ in your body. So in case of Japanese encephalitis, also commonly known as the brain fever, also what happens is the virus which causes this encephalitis or brain fever enters into the body through the blood by mosquito bite, but it can enter into the brain. So depending upon which entry and what mode it is taking, you can actually talk about portal of entry. One more very interesting example is that of malaria, right? So the mosquito will bite you any place, then causing the malaria will actually enter into the bloodstream, travel to the liver, where the protozoa will actually grow further. So in this way, portal of entry, and after portal of entry, which tissue the microorganism is localizing is of importance. So now let us see the signs and symptoms. Whenever a particular microorganism is growing in a particular tissue, it will affect or it will start to affect the functioning of that organ. For example, if there is a bacterial infection in the intestine, it will start affecting the proper functioning of the intestine, and you might see signs and symptoms such as vomiting, loose motions, or symptoms associated with diarrhea. If it is affecting the respiratory lining, then you might see infections such as sneezing, coughing, sore throat. So depending upon where or in which tissue this particular microorganism is going to fix itself, is basically going to decide what signs and what symptoms are going to be seen in such cases as well. Okay, in the tissue specific effects, only one more important point which we need to consider is that once a particular microorganism has localized itself or it is present in a particular tissue, what will happen? The host immune response will again be activated because of this mechanism. So what is happening, for example, if a bacteria has gone and it has settled in the gut of the human being, what will happen? Those cells in the gut will give a signal to the immune system to get activated, and these immune system getting activated will lead to inflammation, which can lead to pain, swelling of that particular area as well. So this is one of the effect or tissue specific manifestations of your pathogens. Apart from this, you can have a generalized means of a sexual contact, and then it spreads to the through the lymph into the immune system, right? So what it does is it gets activated and destroys the immune system as well. So now what happens here is that even if any other bacterial infection, fungal infection is occurring, the body's immune system itself has been reduced. So you cannot see that particular tissue specific effect in this case. So the person will not actually die because of HIV, but it will die because of some secondary infection. In normal cases, what would have happened if a common cold is occurring? The immune system has the capacity to fight off that cold. But now in this case, what will happen? Now the immune system has been weakened, destroyed by your HIV virus. So in this case, your immune system will not be able to fight off this general common cold, and it may turn into pneumonia, which will eventually kill the person off. Yet another thing which is going to control tissue and organ specific manifestation is the number of microbes, right? So number of microbes which are present in the body. So usually if the immune system is very active, what it will do, it will try to reduce the microbial load inside the body. If the immune system is not able to do so, the microbial load will increase and you will see a full blown chronic infection as such. So lesser the number of organisms in the body, lesser will be the load. The infection will not be very severe, whereas the severity you can say is directly related to the number of microorganisms. So if lesser number, lesser will be the load, whereas if higher the number of organisms are present, microorganisms are present, then the chances of getting or developing a very severe infection will increase. So this is all with respect to organ and tissue specific manifestation. Okay, so next we have to deal with principle of treatment. Right? So we have to talk about the principle of treatment. Like I said, usually what happens is there are two categories of treatments which are going to be available. The first one is going to be reducing the symptoms. So this is going to be the first one. And the second one over here is going to be killing the microorganisms. Right. So two broad categories of reducing the symptoms and killing of the microorganisms. Now, whenever we are talking about reducing the symptoms, usually if you are suffering from any kind of infection, you might have a variety of symptoms like headache, you might have vomiting, you might have inflammation, pain, swelling. So these symptoms cause a lot of discomfort. So to reduce such symptoms, certain pain medications, certain headache, or to prevent your headache, some medications are available. What will these medications do? They will basically reduce the severity of the pain or suffering, but they will not play any role in killing of the microorganisms. So they usually help in healing by reducing the suffering and pain. So you might get a number of painkillers, medicines which prevent you from getting a headache. You get many antipyretics which will reduce your fever. So all these medicines are going to come under these categories. The next one is killing of the microorganisms. Like I said, the medicines you have consumed over here are not going to play any role in killing the microorganisms which are going to be present. So depending on which microorganism has entered into the body, is it a bacteria, is it a virus, is it a fungus, is it a protozoa, is it a worm, you will have different course of treatment. For example, you can have antibiotics, you can have antivirals, and number on, and so on, right? So what See, these multicellular organisms have different biochemical pathways, which are some of them may be different to us, and some of them which may be similar to us. Like I said, the bacteria usually have presence of a cell wall around them, and humans do not have this. So usually we are going to target the synthesis of cell wall. So if the bacteria is not able to synthesize its cell wall, it may not be able to replicate or increase its numbers, which will ultimately lead to the killing of these bacteria. That is why you can use antibiotics in this case, because the pathway through which they synthesize is going to be absent in us. So these medicines which we consume will only affect the microorganisms and they will not affect us. So in this way you can treat number of bacterial infections. For malaria, a number of antiparasitic infections or antiprotozoals are also available in the market, which are very effective nowadays. The viral infections are very hard to treat because viruses themselves are very small organisms. They have very few number of biochemical pathways inside themselves. They are mainly dependent on their host. So the viral medication is very strong and it usually has a number of side effects on the human beings as well, because we are consuming those medicines and the products of these medicines might interfere with the working of our biochemical pathways as well, right? So these antivirals nowadays with the evolution of the pharmaceutical technologies as well and advancements in science, a number of effective antivirals with least side effects are being manufactured, but these are the major problems associated with your antiviral medication. This is your principle of treatment. Now let us move on to the next topic, which is principle of prevention. So till now what we have seen, there are some infectious diseases. These microorganisms enter into the body by various means and cause tissue or organ specific manifestations which can lead to a variety of signs and symptoms. And then you can have a treatment strategy for treating these infections. But you all must have heard the saying that prevention is always better than cure, right? So why are we using this particular prevention strategy? It has mainly three reasons why we are talking about prevention as a major goal in this chapter. Is because first and foremost, whenever a person gets sick, you know the person can never have a full recovery. Never have a full recovery. So once the healthy organ gets infected, there might be chances that after a prolonged period of time, it gains its complete healthy normal function. But like I said, it will take a long time, and the person's efficiency to do some work or to carry out the normal day-to-day activities may be reduced. Apart from this, the third cause over here is that they can spread the infection. Right? So the infection can be spread to multiple other organisms who are living in the surroundings or vicinity or in the same environment as that of your infected individual. So here it is very important to try to prevent these diseases in the first place itself. Right? So how can we bring about prevention? The answer to this question is very easy. First and foremost, we can look around our surroundings and try to find simple solutions. For example, a number of foodborne diseases are spread by contaminated water. Right? So for this reason, what can we do? We can approach the government for building. We can approach the government, local gram panchayats for building toilets around the city so that open defecation is solved. Apart from that, we can protect the sources of water as well. Right? So you can have a number of preventive strategies in these ways. So yet another example can be of airborne infection. So if you are knowing that there is some infection which is going on, you are feeling certain symptoms, make sure that you are not going into overcrowded places so that you are not serving as a carrier or a spreader of this particular infection. Apart from this, of course, if you know that if there is some pandemic going on, you should not visit in those localized areas where the overcrowded areas where the risk of getting infected is very high. For vector-borne diseases, we can have a provision of clean environment so that the muddy water, rain water, which are the breeding grounds for these vectors such as flies, mosquitoes, if you do not let such water accumulate, then the breeding grounds of these flies or vectors will be destroyed, and in this way you can always prevent the disease. Second very interesting approach here is getting a balanced diet, getting sufficient nutrients and balanced diet. See, from what we have understood in the previous cases is that all these organisms enter into the body, and what happens is they try to increase their number. But if the body is supplied with appropriate amount of balanced nutrients, the cells of the body will generate good amount of immune cells. These immune cells will now go and fight off these infections, right? So if you are already healthy, what will happen? The ability to respond to treatments as well as the ability to fight off the infections on a daily basis increases. So usually in air, a lot of microorganisms are present. In the water we drink, a number of microorganisms are present. But because we are eating good, healthy, sufficient amount of nutrients, the body's immune function is at its peak. And due to this proper functioning of the immune system is able to fight off the infection before it reaches a very severe stage. Usually what happens is if you are not consuming proper nutrients, the pathogens who are entering quite regularly, because these microorganisms are omnipresent, they will enter into the body, they will get a chance to spread their infection and increase their number and hence their severity. So a proper functioning immune system is very important, and for getting a proper immune system, you should have an intake or availability of sufficient nutrients and a balanced diet. So two basic ideas. First is to observe sanitation and hygienic practices and associated risks if there is any, and to follow proper rules and regulations if there is outbreak of any epidemic or pandemic as such. And second is getting sufficient nutrients and a balanced diet. So third very interesting strategy for principle of prevention is vaccination or immunization. So in immunization, what we are actually doing is we are trying to fool the immune system with the help of vaccines and some associated products, right? So what happens in case of immunization or vaccination is that, for example, you must be very familiar with the current drive which is going on in India is the polio vaccine, right? So what we are trying to do, we are trying to reduce the infections to such a great level that no one in the world will now suffer from such diseases. One very good example of this is we have eradicated smallpox by using vaccines. Now, what are these vaccines made up of? These vaccines are made up of killed or attenuated bacteria or viruses. So they might either be living vaccines or dead vaccines in case weakened bacteria are administered into the body, or you can have dead bacteria or some proteins which are causing increase in immunization. So what is happening in this case is that we are tricking our immune system, because in the vaccine very less number of bacteria, that is very low load of bacteria which will have the ability to initiate an immune response, but it will not have the ability to cause the disease. In very small quantities, such bacteria or viruses or any kind of microorganism attenuated or killed might be added into the might be consumed by the human being. After that, what happens is the immune system gets activated, and if the second time naturally if you are roaming about and you come in contact by either eating, consuming infected food or breathing in the air which is having certain viruses or bacteria in it, the body will now have a memory. This person had consumed a vaccine which had a bacteria which looked very similar to the one which is entering now. So the memory cells of the body will now get activated at a very quick rate, and they will help in preventing the person from getting a disease. So vaccination not only reduces the chances of getting disease, in some cases when very serious infections can occur, you are already training your immune system that this particular infection might occur. So I am training my immune system in such a way that if very severe infection is there, the severity of that disease may be lowered as such. So immunization or vaccination is again one very important strategy adapted for prevention of disease, spread of disease. You all must be very familiar with this concept because all of us in India have taken 2 doses of the COVID vaccines during the pandemic, right? So immunization is again very important strategy for preventing further spread of infection.